Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. We're on the web at ntnm.org, well over 300,000 shows watched. All the videos from the last 8.5 to 9 years, community policing, caps24.org. We hope you participated in National Night Out. We'd like to thank all the people in the 24th District, our new commander, Roberto Nieves, as well as Community Policing Sergeant Sean Sisk, not to mention, in no particular order, Edith Moore, and Mike Stahula, and who am I leaving out? That's all. Okay, well, we're shorthanded again, but they do a nice job. We thank them all for what they're doing. And if you're in Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, or the north part of Edgewater, Community Policing, 24th District, caps24.org. The number of the Community Policing Office is 312-744-6321. And speaking of community policing, one of the very earliest supporters of community policing when it first came out, in his early days in the City Council, was our next guest, 49th Ward Alderman Joe Moore. How you doing?
Avi, it's great to be back.
First of all, my pleasure, and thank you so much. And congratulations on your new chairmanship.
Oh, thank you very much. You're referring to my chairmanship of the City Council Committee on Housing and Real Estate, which is a subject matter near and dear to me and very important to my community, which has a lot of housing needs.
No, not only housing needs, but one thing I'll say, there's been a tremendous boom in growth in terms of buildings being, I mean, there's still a need for more, but there has been a lot of building done. And
a lot of redevelopment over the last 10 to 15 years. And what we've tried to do, Avi, is to encourage that kind of market rate development, but also encourage affordable housing, too, because it's very important to those of us who live and work in Rogers Park that we have a diverse community. And in order to have a diverse community, you need to have housing that's affordable to people in all income ranges.
Now, just out of curiosity, and I don't ask him in advance. I never know in advance what we're going to talk about.
I never do either.
No, we don't. I mean, everything's live that way. What kind of price range? And when we talk about affordable housing, what kind of rent line would that be? What kind of price for a condo would that be?
Generally speaking, when you're talking about housing that's affordable, basically the rule of thumb is that no one should spend more than a third of their income on their housing needs, meaning rent and utilities. And if it's excessively above that, that really affects your quality of life. That affects your ability to save. It affects the local economy because you have less to spend on and other matters in local businesses and things. So that's been kind of the rule of thumb. So when we've set aside affordable housing for against or apart from the market rate housing, we do so in a way so that that housing is affordable to people of low income, people who earn anywhere from below 80% of the area median income, and making sure that they don't spend more than a third of their income, whatever that income is, on their housing.
Gotcha. One of the people I'm curious about, I've gotten press releases from various organizations that this person has run over the years, mostly for the Pritzker Military Museum. But Colonel Pritzker has made, seems like a huge investment in the 49th Ward. She
has indeed. She's, the most prominent investment is the Main Stage Theater, which really was the catalyst for the economic revitalization of Morse Avenue. And that's located at about 1328 West Morse. It is a wonderful, beautiful venue. She spared no expense in restoring that building. Next door to the main stage is the Act One Pub, which she also owns. It's a really fine restaurant, very high quality restaurant. But that's not the only investment they've made. They own, or she owns, the Emil Bach House, which is the only remaining Frank Lloyd Wright house in Rogers Park, and in fact, it's a landmark. And she spared no expense in restoring that home, which had undergone quite a bit of disrepair and neglect, to its original splendor, and really tried as closely as possible to approximate how it was furnished, how it was designed, the kind of materials that were used when that was first built 100 years ago. There are also the Farcroft apartment buildings, a beautiful building that, again, had gone to a little bit of disrepair. It's an 8-story building right around the corner from the Emil Bach House on Fargo Avenue. It's now quality rental housing. And she's also built really quite probably, you don't think of parking structures as being particularly beautiful, but this comes closest to being really nice. It's located on Sherwin and Sheridan. It was, controversial when it was proposed, but I think once it's finished,
from my backyard, by the way.
Yeah, once it's finished, and it will be finished it's finished around this time. It'll be open sometime in early August, and it will provide take 250 cars off the street, thereby helping to alleviate the chronic parking shortage that residents in my neighborhood face all the time.
And it, especially from the, I right now I don't have a car. I walk. I take the L. It's easier. But yeah, parking in your area can be a major headache, especially around Sheridan Road.
They call it Rogers No Park for a reason.
Yeah, there were
and
times,
we've been working a lot to try to alleviate that, getting rid of abandoned cars, getting rid of unnecessary parking restrictions, working with the local schools and churches to allow overnight parking. But it's still a problem, and this parking structure is going to do a lot to alleviate that. And finally, she has just proposed a development right across from the main stage, a 45-unit apartment building.
Is that the strip mall where the bus stops for the L station?
Right at Main and Morse Avenue, currently occupied by an ugly eyesore of a strip mall.
It is. It's really ugly.
The only stores left up until recently when she purchased it, the only stores there were a laundromat and a cell phone store. So that's going to be torn down, and in its place will be really a very beautiful structure that will include some parking for neighborhood for the residents of the building, and about 50 spaces available for the patrons of the main stage, and when that's not being used, for businesses and residents in the community. Again, to help alleviate the chronic parking shortage, which is exacerbated when the main stage has shows or events.
Yeah, but get Dave Mason back. That's what I really want to see over there.
I will pass that on to the folks working for Jennifer Pritzker.
I used to get press releases all the time from the main stage, and I only get them periodically now.
Well, maybe you fell off their email list or something, but...
Yeah. We've been in touch. I actually tried to get somebody from the main stage on the show when they first opened up to see if I could get them on.
Well, I will pass on that this would be a great opportunity for them to advertise their business and to let other people know about the events taking place at the main stage and its availability for... they host a lot of weddings and other events as well as shows.
I was actually at a Hanukkah party there. It was the last time I was there, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it's a great place. The performers at the main stage tell me how great the acoustics are. They say it's probably the best acoustics of any venue of its size anywhere in the city of Chicago.
That actually used to be a synagogue originally, which a lot of people don't realize.
Originally it was a vaudeville theater.
Really?
Yeah. When it was first built, it was built for live vaudeville. Then when the movies took over, it was a movie theater called the Co-Ed. And then in the 1950s, and I think in response to the demographic changes taking place in Rogers Park at that time, it became a synagogue. And it was a synagogue for about 20 years until it was purchased by a guy named John Giannoulis, who was the son of a long-time shoemaker who had a storefront underneath the Morcell. He purchased that building. His hope was to turn it into an indoor shopping mall, so he kind of gutted out the interior, and he operated his shoe store in the front. Unfortunately, the indoor shopping mall concept didn't take off, and so he had the building. He had a fairly successful shoe store business, and then about 10 years ago, the folks representing Ms. Pritzker approached him. He sold the building to them, and that's when they went in and totally gutted out the inside and restored the theater to a little bit more closely to what it looked like back in when it was a movie theater back in the day.
Yeah, speaking of buildings that used to be a certain thing, and you know what, Sonny, I never hit the start button. Do we have any time thing going?
Well, Avi, I could talk forever, so.
I figured 10:30.
Okay, so we'll just deal with that. We're fine then. In any of, speaking of things that used to be synagogues and stuff in the
by the way, if anyone doubts that this is not taped live, that was a good indication of the fact.
True, and I don't cut this stuff out either. You know, if I put my size 14s in my mouth, I leave them there when we air.
Apparently, as do I, right? Although I'm only size 11.
Oh well, you know you're not a short guy. I mean, I'm just a little taller.
Yeah.
So although when I'm on the show I slouch and I can make somebody 5 feet tall look taller than me sometimes.
How about that? Sit up straight.
I never sit up. My mother was always on me on posture. But you know, I got a thing from the Rogers Park Biz Arts. And they talked about a leather museum at 6418 North Greenview. And I said, that address sounds familiar. And I clicked on it and I started thinking, and that was actually the old Rabbi Wein, way back when. He had a synagogue there, and then Free Friends of Refugees of Eastern Europe, when you were getting a large amount of Russian Jews in the neighborhood, was there before they moved on to further west on Devon.
Right. It's interesting what becomes of some of these old synagogues, and I think that's one of the most interesting transitions from a synagogue to a leather museum.
Yeah, that's.
I've never been there, and I saw the email you're referring to. I haven't had a chance to open it up. My guess is by the time the show is aired, that event will have occurred. I think they usually use those the RP Biz Arts, which is kind of just a social organization for artists and business people to get together and network. I think they usually take place in the last Wednesday in July. Nonetheless, I'm fascinated to check it out. The only thing I should note is it's not in the 49th Ward. It's actually across the street from the 49th Ward and the 40th Ward. So Alderman O'Connor, who's the 40th Ward Alderman, can take credit for that museum.
Oh, interesting.
Not I.
I know the lines get a little funny around there, but
right. Down by Devon, I represent the Rogers Park east of Greenview. Alderman O'Connor represents Rogers Park west of Greenview, south of Albion. So it gets a little confusing over there, but that's how the boundaries work right over there.
Interesting. I'll try to keep that in mind because I know anyway, you know what? There's so many other things going on there. What are some?
This topic got you a little flummoxed there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, there could be like a half a dozen things. What the historical value of leather, or great leather jackets, or
something along those lines.
It's just different, and I mean, as long as it's not a tannery, they're smelling up the area.
Right.
I don't know if people remember what tanneries smelled like when we used to have more in the city, but it was not a pleasant odor, to put it mildly. Are there other new developments going on right now in the ward?
Oh, there are a lot of things going on down on around the Loyola University campus. Some new businesses going in. I know they have two new restaurants right around the Loyola campus. Clark's is going into one of the spaces in the Granada Center, just north of Devon Avenue on Sheridan Road. They're negotiating with another restaurant chain for the space that's right next to the Loyola Plaza and the new building they just constructed. And then just down the street over on Devon, we've got a couple new developments being built, mixed-use developments with commercial on the first floor and residential above by Three Corners Development. Two on the south side of Devon in the 48th Ward, and one on my side of the street in the 49th Ward. Really, interesting, modernistic design, and they'll bringing some more residents into the neighborhood to help support our local businesses. We also have soon to be open a new upscale pub on the corner of Devon and in Magnolia. And across the street on the south side of Devon is going to be a brew pub. Well, they'll be manufacturing a beer on site.
Cool.
And it'll be on the south side of Devon. So Devon Avenue is really starting to explode the way that Morse Avenue did before. And so I'm very excited to see all those developments occurring and happy to support them.
Yeah, Devon and Magnolia is close enough to me that I could actually stagger home afterwards.
Right by the 24th Police District station. So be careful when you stagger. Stagger carefully.
I remember the old days of the Pinewood. And that's where we used to meet after the District Advisory Committee meetings. And come to think of it, I don't want to say this on the air, so I won't. But it was a really nice place, and we were joined by a lot of very interesting people over there. But now, another development over there. Now let's hit crime a little bit, and this is something that, it's sort of like we just had a meeting ourselves in our area with different rabbinic leaders in the Jewish community, who are very concerned about all the shootings going on here. And for those who aren't following it, apparently what's happening is there's two rival factions of the Latin Kings. Best described from a police standpoint is the 24th District, which is West Rogers Park, north part of Edgewater, and the 17th, which is like Albany Park and Peterson Park, and it goes further than that. But those guys are at war with each other, and there's been some stray shots. The fact is, I see all these people on Facebook scream and yell and holler, but having been on the police board for 20 years, and even before that, having been a police reporter, for various newspapers, if somebody really wants to shoot somebody, it's almost impossible to stop.
Well, and I'm not sure about your portion of the 24th District and the 50th Ward, but in the 49th Ward, the fights are actually between two rival factions of the Gangster Disciples.
Oh, interesting.
And what's really occurred is the feds working with Chicago police were very successful at putting away the top gang leaders of these gangs, which there used to be a lot of discipline in the gangs and a lot of order. With the leadership gone, these street gangs have sort of devolved into rival factions, and so you essentially have people who are not really fighting over drug territory anymore, which was the traditional cause of the violence, but it's now just simple matters of respect. And what the police have found is that a lot of this violence is being fueled by the social media, Facebook and YouTube. The rival factions put up posts that taunt the other members. They put up rap videos that say awful things about the rival gang members, very personal things. And what happens is a lot of times they respond with gunfire, and it's been very, very challenging to control. As of the time we've taped, we've had a relatively quiet summer. Not totally quiet, but certainly compared to the year before, we had a real uptick in the violence. I know our new police commander, Roberto Nieves, who, by the way, I'm very impressed with, has followed the footsteps of previous commander Waldera, and has actually gone to the homes of the people they know that are the main instigators of the violence, and basically told them, flat out, look, and they bring the family together and say, look, if you're going to continue to do this, you're going to end up in jail for a long time. And he sets forth the heightened penalties that are meted upon repeat offenders. But then he goes on to say there's an alternative way, and he brings with him representatives from social service agencies, from the organizations that help to find ex-felons find jobs, organizations that give ex-felons an ability to get their GED, their high school equivalency diploma, and said there's a better way. And we will facilitate you getting these programs. We'll put you in the front of the line, but you have to be willing to do that. And these meetings aren't always successful, but they've been successful, I'm told, about 20% of the time, 1 in 5. Well, that's actually a pretty significant number, where you can take someone who's been engaged in a life of violence, is going down the wrong path, and actually begin to change your life around and do something positive. That, to me, I think has helped to lessen the violence this year as compared to last year. They've also made some very key arrests. Recently, there was an arrest of an individual who had been the instigator or the target of a bunch of the violence in the East Rogers Park community. They've taken him off the street. He's now in jail. He was responsible for the murder of a rival gang member, and we'll anticipate he'll be off the streets for a very long time to come. And as a result, we're safer for it. So another thing that we've done is my office, together with Alderman Osterman's office and Alderman Kappelman's office, the 3 lakefront aldermen on the north side, met with the mayor and Superintendent McCarthy, because there's a realization on everyone's part that this isn't just a localized Rogers Park problem. It's Rogers Park, it's Edgewater, it's Uptown. These gang members go back and forth. They don't respect ward boundaries. They don't respect community boundaries. They don't respect their communities. But there is a lot of back and forth among those various gang members. And so there are some special strategies that the police department have put into place to address those issues. And I think that, too, has so far helped to mitigate the violence in our community. Well, I certainly hope we can get through the rest of the summer and have, less violence and more people engaged in positive activities rather than this ridiculous back and forth on the social media.
Yeah, no, I hope so too. And I'm glad to hear about, Commander Nieves. Even though I've met him a couple times, obviously at the DAC meetings, I've never really heard much about what he's doing. And I'm glad to hear he's doing it. These days, Commander Waldera basically, our former Commander Waldera, who's head of narcotics now, please bring some if you ever hear again. So, bad joke. Anyway, he told me that the policy now is that people in command positions are going to be switched out every 2 years.
Well, that's kind of been the pattern under this police superintendent. There's good and bad with that. Obviously the bad is just when you get comfortable with your police commander and he or she gets to know the neighborhood, boom, they're moved out.
Yeah, I felt like we finally broke Waldera
in. And Roussel before him.
Yeah.
The good news is you get a lot of fresh blood. You get hungry members of the police department are looking to prove themselves and move up the ranks, and that's a good thing too. So.
No, it's true. One of my favorite.
The important thing to me is, are we continuing to get police commanders that are proactive, that understand the importance of involving the community, that are looking for innovative ways to try to address some of our public safety concerns? And we have been very lucky in the 24th District, particularly with the last 4 police commanders we've had, Subchich, Roussel, Waldera, and now Nieves. Top-notch police commanders who...
Actually, there was somebody else in the middle there, too, the heavyset guy.
Yeah, he was only there for a short time.
Right.
Wick.
Commander Wick, right.
Yeah. And if you look at the overall trends, sometimes people, for understandable reasons, just are focusing on what's happened in the last 6 months or year, and especially if you have a period of time where there's been an uptick in violence, you get this view that, that things are just going downhill and to hell in a handbasket. But as you know, Avi, you look over the long term, the 20-year trends, and we have in the 24th District, and particularly in the East Rogers Park portion of the 24th District, half the rate of violence that we did 20 years ago.
And crime is less too. And I know myself that when we started when I started with with the camp stuff, we would regularly have major drug selling problems on streets, street corners, alleys, all the rest of it. And it's much less now than it was then. As a matter of fact, now it's more of a rarity to see people come out in mass because their street has been completely lost.
Yeah, and there's still hot spots, no question about it.
No question.
But there are fewer of the hot spots, and the amount of people involved in that illegal activity are fewer in number as well. So we're making progress. We're not there yet, and we have to continue to remain vigilant, and we can't rest on our laurels. But we need to have hope, and that hope is based in the reality that crime has gone down and continues to do so overall.
No, it does. There's definitely a lot less incidents, and a lot of the incidents. Also, the nature of crime seems to be changing too. Whatever there is, you see less people breaking into people's homes. You'll see more like snatch and grabs of iPods or iPhones or things like that.
Yeah, well, part of that is education. There are less opportunities for the bad guys to break into people's homes because people have, they keep their, they have window locks now. They have security devices on their doors. They have alarm systems. They put up security fences, put up more lighting, all these things that discourage would-be burglars from trying to break and enter. And a lot of that has to do with educating the public. I myself had to be educated. I've been on a couple of occasions over the time I've lived in Rogers Park. My house has been a victim of crime. I've been burglarized a couple times. Fortunately, not recently, but back in the 90s, there were 3 different occasions, and
Wow.
each time I got some additional tips on how to make my house more secure. And I think to the point now that we're knock on wood, pretty good shape. And I think a lot of other people have taking steps as well.
No, it's true. As a matter of fact, when there have been robberies, like across the street of me behind the alley, there were a couple of garage robberies over a 3-block span.
Yeah, burglaries.
Burglaries, right. I'm sorry. And basically what they did is they found doors that were open. They didn't break in.
There were crimes of opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's often what you find out are crimes of opportunity. Someone leaves their cell phone sitting in the middle of the car, leave their car doors unlocked, leave a window wide open in the summertime. Those are things that are crimes of opportunity.
Yeah, and thank God there's less violence involved with those kind of crimes than there are with home invasion or anything else.
Absolutely.
Well, while we're really not sure how long we've gone, I know that according to what we think we've got, we're kind of running out of time here. Would you like to give people the contact number if they'd like to contact
Of course.
49
As you know, Avi, I communicate with people quite a bit. I've got an electronic newsletter that I send out several times a week.
I highly recommend getting it.
To give people news on what's going on in the Rogers Park community. If you'd like to sign up for it, it's ward49.com. That's my email address, ward49.com. You go there, on the top of each page is a place where you can submit your email address. You hit send, and you'll be getting my electronic newsletters. People have found them to be very, very informative. If you have any service requests, issues of concern, always email our office at ward49@cityofchicago.org. ward49@cityofchicago.org. And then finally, you can do it the old-fashioned way and pick up the phone and call us at 773-338-5796. And I'll repeat that again. It's 773-338-5796.
Well, we really are out of time, but I want to say, whatever complaint you got against him, openness can't be one of them, because this office is about as wide open in public as anybody. Thank you so much, Alderman
Thank you, Avi.
Moore.
Always love coming on your show.
My pleasure, and thank you so much, and good luck.